We're taking a quick break from our Dubai videos because we've gotten a lot of questions recently about where to stay in Istanbul and in Turkey now that Turkey is reopening after lockdown.
Since we stayed in Airbnbs and hotels all over Istanbul and Turkey, we want to outline pros and cons of staying in both. And also, we'll talk about our favorite neighborhoods in Istanbul and which one you should stay.
So the first time I brought my parents to Turkey back in 2017, we took them to Istanbul and Antalya, and I just knew they needed some amenities that an Airbnb couldn't provide. Room service, cleaning rooms, the whole 9 yards. They were on vacation, and I just wanted them to relax and enjoy, and hotels, of course, were the way to go. One thing that really surprised me about hotels here in Turkey that's different than hotel stays in the United States is that they include breakfast for free with the hotel price.
Almost 99% of the hotels that we stayed around Turkey included breakfast. Call it Turkish hospitality or whatever, but it's definitely very helpful to have the Turkish breakfast ready for you in the morning.
Right, and it's not just simply a muffin like you find at US hotels, it's a really big breakfast spread and it's usually pretty damn delicious.
And if you come to Istanbul and if you don't have a plan, at least the hotel staff will be helpful to book your activities because they're also working with travel agencies.
Now, the next thing is kind of a personal preference, but we really do enjoy the big comfortable beds that you find at a lot of hotel rooms.
Of course, at the hotels, it's more guaranteed to have big and comfortable beds than staying at Airbnbs. And another thing that's not guaranteed when you're staying at Airbnb is your host may cancel on you last minute, then you have to look for a hotel and it can be much more expensive.
Right, it actually happened to us in Sydney, Australia, when the first time we went to visit. Our host, no fault of their own, had to cancel on us, so we had to scramble last minute to book a hotel. One more positive about staying at hotels during COVID times is the fact that your hotel restaurants are not going to face any restrictions. Currently, restaurants are capacity restricted and have to close at 9 p.m. here in Istanbul, but your hotel restaurant could stay open later, so you could certainly eat there if you're staying at a hotel after 9 p.m.
Hopefully this information will be irrelevant very soon because we're hoping that the lockdowns will be over.
Fingers crossed.
But of course, hotels are not always perfect either. There are downsides of it too, and the most obvious one is, of course, they are more expensive than Airbnbs.
Airbnbs could be had for as little as $20 to $30 per night, but of course, the more fancy hotels especially are going to be much more pricier than that.
And also, since you don't have a kitchen area, you have to buy your food every day. And that's another thing that's being added to your expense list. But if you're coming to Turkey for a short time period, we highly encourage you to try Turkish food, especially Turkish street food. Coincidentally, we have a video on that somewhere around here. Of course, when we consider the benefits of Airbnb, in addition to them being more cost efficient than the hotels, I think the most important part is having the local feeling, staying in the neighborhood, and having the actual Istanbul feels when you're staying in Istanbul.
And in addition to those local feels, this next one actually might be a benefit to some. The fact that you can eat breakfast out and experience breakfast at different local restaurants here. You could get it for as little as 30 to 40 liras per person, and you'll have the whole giant Turkish breakfast spread, which is so delicious. We actually have a video about that as well. Be sure to check out some of the food you should try while you're here in Istanbul. Switching gears, another great thing about Airbnbs that we've come to really appreciate, and you should too if you're gonna stay in Turkey for a longer time period, is having a washer in your actual Airbnb. It is so helpful and will be much more cost effective than doing your laundry at the expensive hotel places. Of course, there are some downsides to an Airbnb as well. The first one that comes to our mind is the fact that they're in a lot of older buildings here in Istanbul and they won't have an elevator, which could be a big deal for some people and sway you back towards a hotel.
It can be very difficult to carry your luggages 4 floors up after your long trip unless you love exercising extra, so that's something that you might want to keep in mind.
So the last downside of Airbnbs is that they won't have the typical amenities that you will find in a hotel room: shampoos, soaps, body lotions. So you definitely have to bring your own with you. But even when we are staying at hotels, we like to bring some of our own products with us because we aren't sure how the hotel brand stuff is going to interact with our body, with our hair, what have you. Some of those products include my personal skincare products from Geologie.
Just a quick note that we want to thank Geologie for sponsoring this video.
When you're making your summer travel plans, you have to be prepared for those really bright, hot, sunny days that could wind up doing some damage to your skin, whether it's traveling to Europe or right here to Turkey. So that's why I love to bring my personal Geologie products with me. I don't have to worry about picking something up in a supermarket or relying on the hotel skincare products that just may or may not work for my skin, may irritate me. I have none of those concerns with my own Geologie products because I know Geologie is tailor-making them for my skin. It's a very simple process that only takes a couple minutes every day to apply, and I love that because, who has time to sit there for 5 to 10 minutes and apply skincare products, right? So when we're on the go, it's very nice to have, and you could easily just go to Geologie's website that we're gonna link down in our description below, and you could take a quiz and you could find out what works best for your skin. They have different regimens for each person. It's risk-free for the first 14 days, and they'll have products shipped out to you that you could try. And for me, it's been a big game changer to be able to always know that I'm gonna have fresh skin, and I know Gokce has definitely noticed a difference as well. So it's really great to be prepared for the hot European and Turkey summers, and I can't say enough good things about my Geologie skincare products.
And I know how much Steve loves calling them my Geologie products, but I actually use them as well. Hopefully they will come up with women products as well, fingers crossed. But now, switching gears, and let's talk about our favorite neighborhoods in Istanbul.
First one up is here on the Asian side of Istanbul, and that is Kadikoy.
Kadikoy.
Yeah, almost.
I actually lived and studied in the European side of Istanbul, and I love European side, but Kadikoy in Asian side has rapidly become my favorite neighborhood in Istanbul, and there are so many reasons of that. First and foremost, I love the local feeling, and I think that more Istanbulites people are still living in this part of the city, so it gives me more like a old Istanbul taste that I love so much about.
But you do have some of that modern mixed vibe as well, with art shops as well as coffee shops and cafes, so it really has some of the best parts of Istanbul to offer. And it's actually on the more affordable side still. You could find apartments here on Airbnb for as cheap as $15 to $20 per night, which is really amazing.
But of course, there are downsides of staying here too. If you are staying close to the bar area, it can be very loud at nights. Currently, we have a lockdown, so after 9 p.m., the restaurants and cafes are not open. But if you're staying at normal times, then it can be very loud for families. But Moda area in Kadikoy is actually much more quieter and local. And another downside is, of course, you're going to be far from the historical sides of Istanbul, but you can take a ferry to any parts of European side and have a fantastic ride along the way. In fact, you can even feed the seagulls.
So switching gears back towards that European side of Istanbul, one of the more popular spots now for Airbnbs has become the Karakoy area that's near the Galata Tower.
Our friend Ta actually rented a very nice Airbnb in Karakoy in a historical building, and we really loved it. And that neighborhood has been much more popular among Turkish people as well. But I think the downside of that neighborhood for stay is, since the streets are extremely narrow, the businesses are opening very early and can be very loud even during the day.
And also, the prices there are going to be a little bit more expensive than Kadikoy. It's going to be about $30 to $40 per night. For the convenience of being closer to the old town, you're kind of paying for it, but weigh the pros and the cons, of course, and decide what's best for you.
And last but not least, if you're going to stay in Istanbul beyond the historical face of it, in Europe, you can also consider staying around Levent, Besiktas, and Nisantasi area, because most of the malls and the shopping areas are located around there, and you will also see more modern face of Turkey as well. So if you're staying more than 2 to 3 days in Istanbul, after finishing up the historical sites, we highly suggest you to get out of Old Town and explore the other neighborhoods for a stay.
So if you are looking for websites where to book your hotels, obviously your Airbnb is going to be booked on Airbnb, but for hotels, hotels.com is actually very popular here in Turkey. There's also Expedia, and there are a few Turkish websites that we will link down in the description, but they're more geared towards local people. So be sure to price around your options, but one thing that we did find that might be best is to actually find the hotels and then call.
And this is a little trick for you to find the best hotel option for your stay in Istanbul. After finding the best rated hotel for your own budget on hotels.com, you can always directly call the hotels and ask for a new price, because sometimes they can give the room to you much cheaper than hotels.com. But it can be the other way around as well, because they are paying the platform for the marketing purposes.
We've had that happen once or twice before, to be honest. But
Yeah.
do we have a preference? For us, it's really become more Airbnbs as of late when we're staying in Istanbul.
Yeah.
But we know the local side of it a lot better thanks to Gokce. If it's your first time, it might make a lot more sense to stay at a hotel, have the benefits and the amenities, and also stay closer to the old town of Istanbul to see the historical sites. But of course, the choice is yours.
It really depends on how you want to experience Istanbul and Turkey overall. And if you have any questions, please let us know, comment below, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video if you find it informational. We love making videos about Turkey, my home, so we're gonna continue doing that, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.